Hey everybody, so this is week 6, assignment number 2, the World War propaganda stations. So we are really doing a propaganda analysis, right? So that's what I'm kind of calling this assignment. Had we been in class, right, we would have done this as stations or centers. But since we are distance learning right now, you're doing them on your own, which is a little less fun, but still getting the work done. So our directions here are to use the Google slide presentation on World War II propaganda to complete the activities at each station. All right. So here is the slides presentation. You will not get editing rights to this slides document. You will just be able to view it. The only thing that you're going to be able to edit is your answer sheet, right? So here you'll type your answers in, but you will not be able to edit the Google Slides presentation, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and go through the Google Slides presentation here. So basically your directions are to look at the 4 slides that represent the 4 stations or would-be stations. Use the information presented for that station. You're going to answer the questions about World War II propaganda in the United States on the Google Doc in the classwork tab. You will then think about all that you have learned and answer the 4 discussion questions at the end. Okay. So here's just a little bit of review for you. Remember that this is like helpful hints for you, right? So the message that in general people try to send with these different people in the propaganda, for men, it's this idea of patriotism, wanting to seek revenge on people, masculinity, volunteer, right? They should volunteer to go to war because it's the manly thing to do. For women, they fear for their family's safety. They're having to take on a new role because all of the men are away at war. And then they're conservative. They're more conservative. For children, it's their duty to kind of help support the family, grow the victory gardens, recycle things, help ration food. And then in general, it's all this propaganda is aimed at a public's emotions to warn, to plead, to encourage, to prepare for a home or a battlefield sacrifice, right? So remember that the war was not fought in the United States. It was fought in Europe and it was fought in the Pacific, right? We know that because of the 2 maps that we've already done previously this week or last week. So when you look at this propaganda, think about what kind of message is being sent to the audience. What is the purpose of these posters? And kind of remember these roles that the different people play in each of these posters, right? So the next slide is station 1, right? So what you're going to do is fill out the chart for station 1 on your Google Doc. So if we go back to the Google Doc, we're just going to look and see what we need. All right, so there are 4 posters on this station. I see A, B, C, and D. I'm looking for a theme of a poster, the intended audience, and what is the message. All right, so I'm going to go back and we're going to look at poster A. So this is poster A. If you put it in present mode, it'll make it a little bigger for you. So this is poster A. All right, it says Americans will always fight for liberty. All right, you've got some men here on the right, and remember that they represent patriotism, they represent masculinity, they represent going to war. And this is 1943, so we know that this is in the midst of World War II, right? On the left side here, you've got some men who are dressed a little differently, right? They're carrying different guns. Their representation is portrayed differently, and it says 1778. If you Google that year in the United States, you'll see that that's during the time of the Revolutionary War, right? So these men were fighting for liberty and fighting for independence against Great Britain, right? So this author here is trying to make a comparison between what is happening in World War II and what happened during the Revolutionary War, right? In this case, saying that Americans will always fight for liberty, right? We did back then, and we should now, all right? So I'm gonna hit escape and go back to our Google Doc here. All right, so the theme here is liberty or fighting for The intended audience is the men who may volunteer to go to war. And then what is that message? Well, it says a message on the poster, right? It says that Americans will always fight for liberty. But beyond that, what is the poster trying to do, right? Remember that intended audience is the men who might volunteer to go to war, right? So the message is for the men, right? And it is kind of playing on that you should volunteer mentality, right? So our message here should be something along the lines of men should volunteer to go to war. Men should continue to fight for liberty even in World War II, just like we did during the Revolution, right? Men should continue, we'll say continue to volunteer to fight in the war just as they have in the past. Right? So then you'll come back to your slides and do that again for posters B, C, and D. And then you'll move on to station 2. Okay? And each station is a little bit different. It has different sets of questions that go with it. All right. And then as you continue to scroll down and move through your stations, you have a bonus question, which will not be counted in your actual grade. It says, what famous movie characters does the person in D look like? Why would the director make the bad guy look like a German soldier, right? So that's a bonus question. It's not going to count against you. And then you have some discussion questions that are mandatory, right? You have to do these 4. That kind of pull everything together from each of the stations, right? Makes you think about everything in a whole, right? So that is how you complete this assignment. As always, if you have any questions, you can join our office hours at 1 p.m. or send us an email.